chair at this point yet. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order on Thursday, October 16th at 6 p.m. Again, a meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission. As my understanding, we do have a quorum present. I'm the Director of Community Development. Again, speaking over virtual link via Zoom. Sarah Kranz is also on Zoom here. I'd like to move up item 2 on the agenda, which is the election of a chairperson and vice chairperson. And with that, I will entertain any nominations for chairperson, or we'll do chairperson first.
I would like to nominate William Parker as a chairperson.
That was Penscover nominating Bill Parker as chairperson?
That's correct.
Okay.
May I nominate myself?
You can. That was Sarah?
Yes.
Okay. So we have 2 nominations for chairperson. Any other nominations for chairperson? No other nominations. Do either of you, Bill, do you want to be chair? Are you okay with that, or did you want to cede to Sarah if she's willing?
I would be willing to do it as well.
Okay. Trying to think of how we've done this in the past with 2 nominations, and how we've acted, if we've acted, which one we've acted on first here. With that being said, with the 2 nominations on the floor, we will just have a majority here, and if you'd like to nominate Bill Parker as chairperson, that'll be the first vote. I'd ask for aye, and we'll do a roll call. The second vote will be for Sarah, and that'll be an aye. And I'd ask that you only vote once for one or the other. Is there anything prior to taking the vote that Bill or Sarah that you'd want to say in regards to the nominations?
Nothing I can really think of.
I have about 20 years in historic preservation, including graduate work. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Nothing from Bill. With that being said, those who wish to approve Bill Parker as chairperson, please indicate with aye. Liz, can you call the roll with everyone who's there, please? Again, we'll have a second vote for Sarah after this.
You want me to go through and say everyone who is here?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm here, Elizabeth Edwardson. We have Bill Parker. We have Pat Kozicki, Helen Streekstra, Mary Grace Schliessman, and Jeff Penscover.
Okay, so can you, when Liz calls your name, if you're an aye for Bill Parker for chairperson, please say aye. Go ahead and call the roll again, Liz.
Okay. Bill Parker.
Aye.
Pat Kozicki. Helen Streekstra.
Did you respond? Oh, no.
Mary Grace Schliessman. Aye. Jeff Penscover.
Aye.
Sarah Kranz. Okay. So did you get
So
that?
we had,
We had a,
that was 3 ayes, correct?
yes. Correct.
Okay, we can still do and the next one will be, those who wish to nominate, and approve Sarah, please take the roll, Liz.
Bill Parker. Pat Kozicki. Helen Streekstra.
Yes.
Mary Grace Schlesman. Jeff Penscover. Mary Grace, you raised your hand. Is that an aye? Okay, so not. Oh, you for an aye for Bill. Okay. Okay, so yeah, we had 2 ayes, or Sarah Kranz.
Aye.
Okay,
Okay, so we had 3 ayes for Sarah.
3-3.
with Helen being an alternate, the motion will go to Bill Parker for the election of chairperson. Would you, sir, would you be willing to nominate yourself as vice chairperson?
Yep.
Excellent. Do we have any other nominations for vice chair? All right, with no other nominations for vice chair, I'll just go ahead and ask all those in favor, please indicate with aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, so we have our chairperson, Bill Parker, congratulations, and our vice chairperson, Sarah Kranz. Thank you very much. With that being said, I will turn it over to the chairperson. Commissioner Parker, feel free to jump right in. Again, we'll have to do the approval of the minutes. Thank you.
Well, I guess we'll start with the approval of the report from July 17th, 2025 Historical Preservation Commission meeting.
I'd move to approve.
Uh, We have a first and a second. Can I get a aye for approval of the meeting minutes from July 17th, 2025?
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Number 3, Community Development Department update on certified local government grant to apply for historic districts and properties.
I'll go ahead and jump in if I may. So in summary, we wanted to primarily have this meeting to update everybody going into the fall here and winter, which there could be some downtime between the next time we have a Historic Preservation Commission meeting. Because the next steps for us are to apply for the CLG grant to nominate historic districts, and that application is due in December. We've already solicited some contractors and received, I believe, 1 response so far, and that was to nominate 2 of the districts, so both of the residential districts that were identified in the intensive survey, along with 1 individual resource. So given the paper mill, is being the north side, the pulp mill is being demolished, and there's been interest by some on the property. I think I've elected to postpone the nomination of that paper mill district for a year or so. And so just focusing on the residential district, I think is a good first step here. And then with regards to some history on specific property, which is East Junior High by Witter Field over there, previously there was some developer interest and some opportunity to potentially redevelop that property into housing. Unfortunately, the pandemic struck and that interest kind of faded away. But I think there's always the potential moving forward for a property like that to possibly become redeveloped. And it might not be in its entirety. It could just be, the older two-story portion. And so I think I'd like to, especially a building like that, I'd like to try to nominate as an individual resource so that if that opportunity comes up again in the future, those tax credits could be used to help redevelop a property like that, given its location in the city on the edge of downtown, kind of its prominence and its history. And so that's what we've asked probably 4 or 5 consultants to provide those estimates on. The first consultant came back, I think, at a cost of about $36,000 for all 3. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was somewhere around the $36,000 mark. I would expect that if we do receive some other estimates, it'll be probably between that $30,000 to $50,000 range. The maximum award amount for a CLG grant is $50,000. So we would be hopefully underneath that maximum award amount. And so that's what we as staff, I think, are shooting for as we put together the application to apply for those. And we'll touch on part of that application process in the next item 4 regarding neighborhood meetings. But I'd certainly entertain any additional questions, comments, or feedback on kind of our pursuit moving forward for just focusing on those residential districts and that individual property. Anything additional to add, Liz?
Nope. And you were correct that it was around 36,000 for that estimate.
Great, and I don't think we necessarily need action on this item. Just wanted to again update the commission and offer an opportunity if you guys really wanted to see us to pursue that the paper mill district first rather than these residential districts, or if there was another individual property that you thought would be more pertinent to pursue. The way I kind of looked at these and discussed with Liz is, I think we're trying to pursue kind of the highest priority from a community benefit standpoint, and I see these 2 residential districts along with that individual resource, the former school, kind of being at the top of the list. And I think there'll be opportunity in future years for us to continue down that individual properties list, as well as circle back and look at the paper mill as a district. Go ahead.
I just wanted to chime in that I agree with the forming of doing the residential districts first, especially with that paper mill district, like in flux, if you will, because, it's hard to document something that's not already there. And the benefits to the residential space outweighs the possibility of documenting something that no longer exists. That's just my thought. So I agree with the plan to do residential and then circle back to the paper mill district.
Anything else from the group? If not, Bill, you can certainly continue down the agenda.
I don't have anything. I was just sort of listening, taking it all in, and I just agree that the residential needs to take priority right now. I was kind of curious how that was going to work anyway from the last meeting with half of the mill being torn down currently. Number 4, presentation on historic district meetings.
So I'll jump in again here. As I alluded to in item 3, the part of the process for applying for these CLG grants, especially when you're applying for the nomination of districts or properties, the State Historic Preservation Office requires that you hold neighborhood meetings within the districts that you're looking to nominate. Basically to go over the process with the neighborhood, to identify, the benefits of being nominated on the National Register, and to give the neighborhood an opportunity to ask questions, provide feedback and so forth. So as part of that requirement, in staying on track with that December deadline for the CLG grant, we will be, I believe it was the 3rd. No, I'm sorry, the 5th. Correct, Liz?
Yep, the 5th.
We moved it from the 6th to the 5th. I believe that was primarily due to having representatives from the state attend this meeting. And Liz and I determined that given the kind of the somewhat close proximity of the districts, that if we were able to hold one meeting and invite members from both districts to kind of cover the same topics, right? Identify what a historic district is, what are the benefits, talk about the tax credit program. A lot of the questions I'm expecting are, what are the negatives associated with the districts? Does it prevent a homeowner from doing something that's maybe not historic? And the answer is no, it does not prevent them from doing that. And so that meeting again will...
Actually, point of clarification, being listed in the National Register of Historic Places, they can do things that aren't historic. Being
That's
in
correct.
a historic district is a completely different thing. That there are regulations when the district is formed of what homeowners can and cannot do. So-
Only if they're obtaining tax credits.
No, if it's a historic district, it is a different it is a completely different beast than simply being listed in the National Register. Being an actual designated historic district puts regulations on what can and cannot be done, even to the point of what color they can paint their house.
So in some communities it does, but that's through local controls. For example, Stevens Point has their own local design guidelines.
Yep.
We do not have our own local design guidelines here. We have not adopted a local set of design guidelines. So the only requirements for a homeowner within a historic district that's identified on the National Register of Historic Places is to meet the Secretary for Interior standards of rehabilitation.
Yep.
Only if they're applying and have obtained tax credits for historically relevant improvements.
Okay.
If they do not pursue those tax credits, there are no local regulations that we have adopted yet. Now,
Right. There's the key word, yet.
yeah, years from now or down the road, if it's the will of City Council and this commission to do that, to follow in the footsteps of some of our neighbors or other communities, we can certainly bring that forward. But at this point, it's strictly just for nomination on the National Historic Register, which I think also corresponds to the state register. They're kind of one and the same.
Yes,
Um,
yes, they are. Well, sort of. If you're listed in the National Register of Historic Places, you're automatically in the State Register of Historic Places. But sorry, I'm possibly beating a dead horse, but there is no reason to do historic districts if they aren't going to be treated like historic districts and have those regulations. There's no reason to actually set up any sort of district. Or is it more is it more setting up the districts now and then adding the regulations later and kind of basically doing it backwards?
Well, so I know, Sarah, you weren't here from the start, but initially, right, the city had an old historic preservation ordinance and did not have an active commission, did not really implement, historic preservation. There was some language in the zoning code that identified a downtown design review district, and there were some review criteria if you're doing improvements in that downtown design review district. However, that was with the Planning Commission, and it was not, in no way was it connected to, our historic preservation ordinance. So what happened was we kind of overhauled that ordinance so that we could become a certified local government through the State Historic Preservation Office, so that we could eventually pursue historic districts, primarily so that homeowners within those districts could access tax credits, and they'd be more willing to improve their homes via historic means, right? To protect the historic integrity of their properties if they knew that those improvements would be eligible for tax credits. So I think that was the impetus for our pursuit. Now, I think there are additional benefits to having historic districts, right?
Yeah.
If you have a district, you can, you can be more proactive in, your street signage. You can promote the district. You can do walking tours. You can, you can almost use it as kind of an economic generator within the community, while still not necessarily having your own design standards and design guidelines. So I think there's still opportunity, and there's still a lot of benefits to having districts solely on the National Register and not necessarily locally designated.
Okay, I'll quit beating the horse, but yeah, there's not. I mean, there from a homeowner's perspective, something like that. I mean, you get the tax credits just being listed in the National Register. You're eligible for them. But you don't have to be in a district. So, yeah. I mean, I guess I'm questioning why we're pushing the districts if there isn't really. I mean, okay, sure, we could set up walking tours. Well, we can do those now. It doesn't have to actually be a specific one. So I'm not understanding why there's this push for districts if it's
Homeowners.
not, if it's not, if all we're doing is calling it a district, though it's just a collection of houses that are listed in the National Register, which, don't get me wrong, I love the National Register of Historic Places, love the State Register, documenting buildings, properties, all of that kind of stuff, architectural, documenting the city's history, all of that kind of stuff. I love that. I love documenting buildings. I have documentation with the city of Detroit and in the Bentley Library at the University of Michigan. That is a fun part, researching the histories of the buildings and documenting them for posterity. But it's, we're pursuing historic districts just to be, and just calling a group of buildings a district without them actually being a true historic district in every sense of the word. I mean, it's, yes, it is semantics, but it's, I guess if all we're
Yeah, so-
doing is calling it a district so the city, so we can get grant money and all of that kind of stuff, it's like that defeats the purpose of a historic district.
So, Sarah, I'd invite further conversation, maybe outside of the commission meeting here, just in regards to this topic. But the reason we're calling them districts in this capacity is because the intensive survey that was just completed
Yep.
identified that there were two groups of neighborhoods with specific homes and addresses, specific criteria that could qualify for nomination.
Yep.
So we're basically following the implementation or the recommendations of that intensive survey
Mm-hmm.
and taking the next step. So to me, the next step is to pursue district nomination using the CLG grant dollars, and we got CLG dollars to do the intensive survey.
Right. And I get it, and we need to move on. I understand that. But at the same time, I mean, if you go to these meetings and tell the property owners that, oh, you can do anything you want, and then things change and they're stuck in a historic district, oh, you're going to annoy a lot of people because we're doing things basically backwards. You're going to have homeowners set up, agree to being in this historic district, and then changing what it means to be in a historic district to actually what it means to be in a historic district.
So actually, if you read our ordinance and if you go back to the start of the pursuit of becoming a CLG community, I've noted that it is not my initial intent to adopt a locally designated design standards. What I think the pursuit that has led to this is primarily to allow homeowners access to tax credits should they wish to pursue them. And I think via those means, right, a lot of neighborhoods, you know, if your neighbor fixes up their home and makes it look nice, I think it can have the catalytic effect, and others may also follow suit. And I think that's what we're trying to pursue here, is to try to spark some of that interest rather than going all in, so to speak. Because I've seen the approach going all in, for example, Stevens Point, the community that I worked for 8 years, and they were actually trying to go backward. They had a very large Main Street historic district, and they were now trying to nominate a few other smaller districts around it, but they were not going to locally designate it. They were just going to nominate it on the historic register because of some of the issues and problems they'd run into with their locally designated design guidelines. But again, I don't think we necessarily need to go down this further. It's our intent here, as the agenda item notes, to have that meeting on the 3rd. You're all invited to that meeting. If you'd like to attend, I think please let me know first, because if we know that there's going to be a quorum of commissioners at the meeting, we then need to identify it and notice it as a historic preservation meeting, even though we would not have any action items or anything. So that's about all I have to say about it. Liz, if there's anything that I've missed, feel free to chime in.
Yep, just to correct, you said the 3rd, it's going to be on the 5th, so, which is a Wednesday.
The 5th, yes, thank you,
Yep.
the 5th.
But that was it.
Yep, I'm not sure. Thank
It's
you.
okay. November 5th.
I know we kind of skipped ahead to this community development update. So do we have anything else under community development update, or can we go for set the next meeting date?
I do not have anything further to update. I had that on there in the event that something came up that, we could notice it quick. Liz, was there anything that you had?
No.
Okay. So, yep, you can exhaust 5 and move on to 6.
Okay, set the next meeting date. Are you looking
I'll chime
at?
in if I can.
Are you,
I would suggest probably February or March. I don't recall when we had notice of the last CLG award. I think it was in maybe March or April. But again, because we're kind of in this kind of dead period after we apply in December, and after this neighborhood meeting, there's probably not going to be much else to act on at this point. So I think February or March would be a good time to set the next meeting.
would you like to wait till we get notice whether the grant is accepted or approved, or should we just call it for like end of February, early March?
Yeah, I think generally we can, again, you don't necessarily have to act on this item, but if generally the consensus is March and we have to push it back to April because we haven't heard about the CLG grant, not a big deal. I more so just wanted to note that it's not our intent to have a meeting, at the end of this year or early next year. That I'd suggest waiting until we're closer to that CLG notice date, which I think is March or April.
Okay, I think we can just wait till everything comes in then. And, like how we normally do it with email and that.
That's certainly fine.
And if there's nothing else to come before the committee, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
I have a first and a second. Everyone who approves, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.